Palestine, free, free 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 Palestine.
Welcome to another episode of the Watchdog here on Mint Press News. This is Lowkey, and as you know, we go deeper and deeper into watching the watchers and studying the infrastructures of power in this country. The Watchdog could not exist without your support on Patreon or other ways that Mint Press can be supported online. So we do ask that you, after watching this, are able to contribute something. It would be really, really helpful to us, and we appreciate our audience online. Today, I'm joined by somebody whose work has inspired me in many, many different ways, who I have seen speaking in the mainstream media and has moved me to tears at some points. He's somebody whose experience and story really tells us the wider way in which Palestinians have been stripped of humanity and killed on an industrial scale in Gaza. It stands as a testament to the will to survive, regardless of the bullying, the intimidation, the gangsterism of the Zionist project. So I'm very happy to be joined today by my friend Ahmed al-Naouq. Thank you for joining us, Ahmed.
Of course, thank you very much for having me.
And you know, to start with, I think we as journalists, as people outside of Palestine that care deeply about Palestine, owe you and Gaza an apology. And that apology we could give you every single day for the rest of our lives, and it would not be enough. Gaza has been betrayed by its siblings. Gaza has been left to fight on the front line of civilization against high-tech barbarism, against the barbarity of today's empire. They have applied to Gaza the same type of warfare that was unleashed by the Mongols in Baghdad in the 1200s, where they ransacked the city, where the Dijla River ran black with the ink from books, the destruction of culture, the destruction of 4,000 years of civilization. There are hieroglyphics on the walls in Egypt, inside pyramids, which mention the word Gaza. Gaza has a presence in the Ugaritic language, which precedes Hebrew and Arabic. What's being done is so intensely and unbelievably violent, not just in a direct physical way, but in a cultural way, in a historical way. And, you know, you are a survivor of this genocide. And your insights, I feel, can educate so many about what exactly has happened. So thank you for joining us, Ahmed. If you could first give us a little bit of information about your background, about what your life was like before you came to this country.
Of course. Well, thank you very much again for this introduction and for having me. Before I go to introduce myself, I would like to comment on what you just said. And my comment would be, you remember when Netanyahu went to the Congress and he said, this is a war between civilization and barbarism. I agree with him. It is a war between civilization and barbarism. And it is the Palestinians who represent this civilization. And it is him, Netanyahu, who represent barbarism. And by the way, this is not only about Gaza and Israel. This is not a war between the Palestinians and the Israelis. I think after watching and witnessing this genocide that lasted for 10 months and ongoing, and by the way, I don't think the genocide will end soon. I think it will continue. It is ongoing. It has been ongoing and it will still be ongoing. And me watching this war for 10 months and observing the world just saying a few words, how fake this universe was, how much we have been betrayed, the Palestinians, by our brothers and sisters, and also by our enemies, and by those who claim that they are neutral, by those countries or governments that pretend that they are the, the heaven of civilization and freedom and all of these principles that they brag about. It made me realize that this is not a war between the Palestinians and the Israelis. It is a war between civilization and barbarism. And the Palestinians do represent civilization. It's not the other way around. It feels like we in Gaza are fighting the entire universe. We're not fighting the Israelis. We're fighting the entire world. All those who were hypocrite, we have exposed them. And I don't know if Palestine will win or will lose. But what I know for sure, that is only one thing that we have succeeded to do, which is exposing the hypocrites, exposing the tyranny, exposing what Gaza stands for and what Israel and Zionism stand for. So as for me, my name is Ahmed al-Naouq. I just turned 30 and I grew up in Gaza. I lived most of my life in Gaza. I lived in a small town called Deir al-Balah. Deir al-Balah is a small town that is in the center of the Gaza Strip. It's in the middle area of the Gaza Strip. And it is Deir al-Balah, if you know what Deir al-Balah means, you could translate it as the monastery of palm trees. And it was named by that because in Deir al-Balah is full of palm trees. Wherever you go there, you will find palm trees. In every corner, in every street, you will find hundreds of palm trees. So it's a beautiful, agricultural city.
And palm trees, which take a very long time to grow.
Yes,
Also,
and they're very, very, very tall. So it's a very special place in the Gaza Strip. And it has always been a very, very peaceful town. You know, even Sharon, the Israeli prime minister, used to call it Der Shalom, like Dar es Salaam, or the city of peace. But of course, for Israel, it doesn't matter if you are peaceful or not peaceful. You'll always be attacked. So I grew up in Deir al-Balah. I attended school in Deir al-Balah. And then I attended many wars in Deir al-Balah. And then I did my BA in English literature at Al-Azhar University. During
in
my
Gaza,
in Gaza,
not in
Azhar
Gaza.
University of Gaza, the same name of Al-Azhar University in Cairo, but it's totally different universities. And then while I was at university, I found We Are Not Numbers. And then after working for We Are Not Numbers and doing freelance journalism, I finally got a scholarship to do my master's degree in journalism at Leeds University. I got the Chevening Scholarship, which is a British governmental scholarship that is given to those who might be leaders in the future. And then I came to the UK. I did my master's, and then I stayed here for work. I've been living here since 2019.
Tell us a little bit about We Are Not Numbers. This was an organization that I heard about here prior to 2019, if I remember correctly. And there's quite a few exceptional people that were part of We Are Not Numbers. And tell me about it.
So We Are Not Numbers started after the war in 2014 in Gaza. During that war, I lost my brother and many of my friends, and I, like many other people, I was only 19 years old. I sank into deep depression uh, after the war. And then I was encouraged by an American journalist to write a story about my brother. And yeah, I said this story many times, but I was very depressed at that time. And then after she insisted on me, I agreed to write a story about my brother in English. After I wrote my story and it was published, it had changed my mind about the world, because during that war in 2014, I was reading English. I was watching the English media, and it always came to my attention how they report the wars in Gaza. And unfortunately, during that time and during this time, And for the past 76 years, the media in the West has always been dehumanizing of the Palestinian people. They have always reported us as numbers. The numbers of the Palestinians killed is the headline, but they would never write stories about the Palestinian people, about their stories, about their life. So for us, we, the Palestinians, were just numbers in the news. But after I wrote my story and it got media attention, and I've got messages of people from all around the world who reached out to me, who told me that they have read my story, it helped me feel better. And also that the process of writing my story was somehow therapeutic to me. So we thought, why don't we replicate this experience with many other Palestinians, in which we create a platform for youth and refugees in Gaza. We train them how to write their stories in English and then pair them with international mentors, help them write their stories and publish our stories online. So we started this platform. We called it We Are Not Numbers. As I said, because we want to show the world that behind the numbers that you often see in the news, there are stories of people who deserve to be published, who deserve to be heard about. So we started with the 20 writers from Gaza, with some 15 or 20 mentors from all around the world who helped our writers write their stories. So when We Are Not Numbers, we write stories, human stories from Gaza. And it doesn't have to be necessarily a stories of bereaved people, people or martyrs or dead or injured. No, we celebrate the culture of the Palestinians. We celebrate the civilization of the Palestinians. We write about all aspects of life in Gaza because we want to challenge and change the stereotype that we often have about the Palestinians in the West. The West doesn't know the facts. The West don't know what we represent in Palestine. The Westerners don't know us as humans, as people. And we thought to ourselves, it is our responsibility as Palestinians to reach out to the world and to break the siege that is imposed in Gaza, in which we can mingle with other cultures, write in different languages, and reach out to the world and tell them and teach them and educate them about the truth about Palestine. The truth that the media often wants to neglect, because the media in the West doesn't care about its own audiences. They don't care if they know the truth or not. They're just seeking their own interests. And clearly the interest of the media and these journalists in the West uh, doesn't correlate with the right and the truth. So we are challenging that through writing our own stories.
And we'll get on to some of your experiences with the British media. There's a few moments that I've seen in which you've had to deal with just unbelievable treatment, with callous treatment at the hands of the British media. But let's come back to that. At the beginning of this latest iteration of the continuous Nakba, a kind of Nakba on steroids, a Nakba which has drawn into it all of the technological advancement that this settler colony has worked on over these previous decades, these methods of controlling people, of surveilling people, of murdering people. This war has drawn all of that into Gaza and concentrated it on this small population of people who already had an intensely difficult life under a frictionless occupation that controlled the sky, that controlled the electricity, that controlled the water, that controlled what came in and what comes out. But really, we've seen an intensification of the Nakba, and it almost feels as if these 75 or 76 years, these 7 to 8 decades, have been a precursor to this. So, this latest iteration of the continuous Nakba, which has been particularly violent, has been particularly costly to you. Now, if you could start from the beginning of the war, in some ways, there's probably nothing more excruciating than being outside of a situation and watching the people you love, knowing that there's nothing you can do from where you are to help them. It's like being here is a na'ma wa naqma عليك. Yani you have one side which you can speak to the world, you can reach people, you but then on the other side of it, you're in a society which is directly invested structurally in this move to dispossess you, your people, of life, and you're having to watch it. So, if you don't mind, tell us about the beginning of this period and how things unfolded for you.
Well, from the very beginning of the war, I was lashed with the events. On the first day of the 7th of October, on the 7th of October, I was still engaged, and I was with my fiancée having a vacation. We thought we deserve a vacation after many uh, years of not having so. So, on the first day of the 7th of October, my fiancee's house was bombed, and she lost a brother. And we were lucky because only 2 days before the war, she managed to escape Gaza and go to travel outside to meet with me. And I know that if she didn't travel with her parents, all of them would have been killed on the first day of the war. And then the first day of the war, that's the 7th of October, uh, I had to see her grieve for her brother. I had to see her mother grieve for her son. And then I came back to the UK, and I was always in constant contact with my family. I would always call them, "Are you okay?" Um, well, they were not okay. They were very scared. You know, as I said, we witnessed many wars in Gaza before, but during that war, it was the first time that I see my family very, very scared. My younger brother Mahmoud, he was occupying himself with finding ways of how to evacuate the home if there was an emergency. My sister Aya, she had already, like, on the 20th of October, her home was bombed. So I have my all of my sisters and brothers are married except for my younger one Mahmoud, and her home was partially damaged. So she had to escape her home and come to stay with us. My other two sisters, they left their homes because they were not as safe as my family home, because my family home is in the center of Deir al-Balah, which is in the center of Gaza, which is considered one of the safest areas in the whole of the Gaza Strip. So all of my family members, my sisters, my brother, they all came to my family home and they said, "This is the safest place in the whole of the Gaza Strip." But they were scared because they know that Israel doesn't care if this is a safe area or safe zone or humanitarian zone. I don't know what that even means now. And the last day, on the 21st of October, I called my brother and he said that they have a scarcity of drinking water. They were scared a little bit. And then, while they were all sleeping the second day, Israeli dropped a bomb and they killed them. So, yeah, my father, my brothers, my sister, nieces and nephews, young, old, boys, girls, all of them were killed. And they were not only killed, they were their bodies were torn into pieces. They were body parts. People would collect small pieces of their flesh that was mixed with the stones of my home. So just like that, you lost everything: your home, your family home, your brothers, sisters, your father. But as I said, this is a continuation of the Nakba. For me, the Nakba did not start on that day, on the 22nd of October. It started way before that. I said it before. During the Nakba, the first Nakba, in the year 1948, my father, on the first day that when my grandmother was giving birth to my father, my grandmother lost her father and her uncle in a bombing. That was in the year 1948 when my father was born. My father was born on the Nakba. during the Nakba. He was 75 years old when he was killed. On the first day of his life, he lost his grandfather and his uncle and his brother on the first day of the Nakba. And then during these years, my father, he was imprisoned many times by Israel. For what? Nothing. Just, arbitrary detention. He never belonged to any political party. Never. My father was a peaceful man. By the way, he used to work in Israel for 30 years. He used to work in construction in Israel because Israel crushed the economy of Gaza. So, like hundreds of thousands of other people, they would go to Israel and work. But while they were in Israel, they would be humiliated. They would be treated badly. They would be put in detention for no reason whatsoever. And then the second Nakba started, and my father lost his job there, so he had to work as a taxi driver, like hundreds of thousands of people in Gaza. When the second Intifada erupted, everyone in Gaza became a taxi driver because there were no jobs at all, and this is the only thing you could do. You just buy a car and work as a taxi driver. So working as a taxi driver in Gaza was very, very, very difficult, very harsh. You could work for 12, 15, 18 hours just to survive. And my father had nine children. We like to have big families in Gaza. So he had to work and work and work just to survive. And then Israel killed my brother in 2014. And then they killed my mother indirectly by not allowing her to receive a treatment for cancer. And she died. So it's, the Palestinian life is an ongoing Nakba. It started before the first Nakba. And it will not end at the second Nakba. And I call this war a second Nakba. It's even worse than the first Nakba because the scale of destruction and the humiliation and bombing and killing is unparalleled. We haven't seen that in the history of Palestine. And it's still ongoing. And me watching my family now from the outside is not a blessing, it's a curse. Sometimes I would feel like I really would love to live there right now than being here. The hardest part of me losing my family was not being able to see them, to give them a farewell kiss, to attend their funeral. I don't know where they were buried. I still don't know. And most likely I will not be able to know because they were just buried everywhere. Now you go to Gaza, the streets in Gaza, they have become graveyards. Everywhere is a graveyard. Hospitals have become graveyards. No one knows where their relatives or their brothers were killed or were buried. And me watching that from the outside and watching this here. But then I lost most of my family members. I still have two sisters. I lost three brothers, three sisters, but I have still two sisters. And my two sisters survived because they were not at home. They were at their husbands' homes. And yesterday, my sister, my niece called me. And she said, Ahmed, the Israelis called them. They told him to evacuate the area in Deir al-Balah, where they have been living. And she would beg me to find her a spot, a tent, a place that she can move to. And I couldn't find her any place. I couldn't help her. And then I started avoiding her calls because I don't have anything to tell her. There is no place safe that she can go. I can't secure a tent for her. I can't ask one of my friends in Deir al-Balah to find a place or a room for her because Deir al-Balah is the most crowded area in the Gaza Strip right now. It's 2 million people are there, maybe, or 1.5 million people are there. There is no place that she can go to. There is no place safe that she can go to. And I can't help her. And she's got only me. There's no one else that she knows. She's lost all of her brothers in Gaza. And she's divorced. She doesn't have a husband. And, the state of helplessness that I'm feeling is so bad that no one could understand. So it's not a blessing being here. Sometimes I say that I'm a privileged. I have electricity. I have water. I have food. I can travel. I can meet people here. I'm safe, almost. But there are sometimes you feel, the survivor's guilt is overwhelming now. It's overwhelming. Sometimes I question myself, why is it only me who survived this war from my family? Am I special? Or maybe I am doomed. Maybe sometimes you have these ideas that maybe God hates me, that's why he did not take me with him, with my family. You have all of these ideas, conflict all the time. What is right? What is wrong? What should I do right now? Should I speak up? Should I shut down? What should I do? Should I risk my safety to speak about my people, or should I stay safe for my sisters, my two sisters in Gaza? You don't know. So you are in constant conflict all the time, and you're always like absent-minded. You can't concentrate on something. You can't feel safety. Every time now I travel or go in a plane, I would feel like this plane is gonna crash. I will not make it. I will die here. I will die there. So it's very very bad. But I can't say that I am suffering as a people in Gaza. I'm not. I am the privileged one here. I am the lucky one here because I am safe.
But in a way, what you're speaking to is the way in which Zionism in Gaza now has rendered death ubiquitous, not only inside Palestine, but outside of it. The images of death are so constant that they're in your thoughts at all times. And so, Ahmed, just to be clear, in totality, how many of your family members did Israel kill?
I don't know. I have no idea. I know how many
In your immediate family?
immediate family members I have lost. I know that Israel killed my father in this war, my mother 3 years ago. I know that I lost three brothers, three sisters. I know that I lost 14 of my nieces and nephews. So, my brothers and sisters, they were killed with all their family, with all their children. I know that I lost many cousins. I don't know how many cousins. Every time I go check my Facebook, I will find one of my cousins is killed. Many of my cousins are missing now. I don't know where they are, if they're alive or dead. Last month, I called my auntie for the first time in this war, and she told me that her daughter was died, and I didn't know about it. It was that many months ago. My other auntie, she most likely she lost two of her sons. I don't know. They were missing. One of them is like clinically dead. His home was bombed, and he's now. So I don't know how many of my relatives or family members were killed. I don't know.
And the horrific thing about this is it's not exceptional or an aberration. Many, many Palestinians in London from Gaza have lost tens of family members. This is genocide. This is genocide. There's a significant proportion of the population. And then you find yourself in a situation where you have an organ of propaganda, which is the way the British media functions. It has close relationship with Israel lobby groups. It's closely folded in to British foreign policy points of view. And then it provides justification for what you're speaking about are quite clearly civilians.
Of course.
You're not talking about people that even known for political activity, let alone military activity. Israel targets civilians. Now, even that sentence, after almost 50,000 people, at least in the smallest estimations, killed. To say the sentence, Israel targets civilians, it's almost like you're telling people when you're on mainstream media that we're on Mars. Israel targets civilians. This is a very easily verifiable, documented fact. And everything you've just said to me is part of that. But yet you find yourself thrown, to think about you having to deal with the things you're having to deal with and then being thrown into what is a hostile environment, which is the mainstream media. And it's akin to an interrogation delivered by a security agency. And that's as a grieving son. So tell us about some of the most prominent in your mind examples of when following the killing of your family members, you've had to appear in front of thousands of people on the national media and somehow defend your own humanity.
Well, Loki, I have to say this. In so many cases, in so many TV outlets here in the UK, when they invite the Palestinians to come to their studios, they do not invite you because they want to hear your opinion or your political analysis. They would like to welcome you to their studio just to pursue their own bias or their own reporting. So, someone like me who has lost his family in Gaza, they would invite me to come to their studio, yes, because I already talked about it on social media and everyone knew about it. So they want to pretend that they are neutral or unbiased by inviting someone like me. But then they would invite me not because they want to hear my story. Or in the best cases, they would like me to talk about my tragedy so that people can say, oh, Ahmed is, oh my God, we're sorry for you. But they do not want to hear me, my critical analysis of the situation. So, for example, when I start attacking the media, they would backlash at me. So they want me to come to their studio and say that, okay, I'm sad, I'm crying, I lost my family, I don't like the war, I want peace, I condemn Hamas. Hamas is a terror organization. So if all the messages that they would like you to deliver, they all must come within this framework of their ideology, of their bias, uh, of their own way of reporting. The moment you try to challenge them, to challenge their narrative, then you're immediately under the spot. You're immediately attacked. And in many cases, my relationship to my brothers and siblings were questioned. Are you close to you? Are they close to you? Like
As if
as if
that somehow
it doesn't
dictates how
matter.
you should be
Yeah,
responding.
yeah,
So are you saying that you're more hurt than you are? That's the
exactly,
implication.
exactly, exactly. And in some other cases, like my nieces and nephews and their collateral damage, it happens. Like the killing of the civilians happens in every
Who
war.
was that said that?
I
Do you
don't
remember?
like to name, but everyone knows. Everyone watched this interview, and one of them said, like, it's collateral damage. It happens, you know. Civilians can die at wars. So you're telling someone who
In
just lost
who
all of his family is that civilians can die at
over
war.
20 members of their
Yes,
family. You're
yes,
sitting next to somebody who's
yes,
sitting in that, who's living that.
yes. And immediately after I lost my family. So it just happens. He doesn't want me, or they don't want me to criticize Israel after they have killed and murdered my
Mm.
family. And if I want to criticize Israel, then no, I'm bad. I'm a bad person. I'm unworthy of being listened to. Do you condemn Hamas? Is Hamas a terror organization? If you answer with yes or no, like that determines if you are worthy of telling
Yeah.
your story or not.
And it's how they try and weaponize you
Exactly.
against yourself.
Exactly. So they want Palestinians to come to their studio to condemn Hamas and say Hamas is a terror organization, because when we say that, that is, you know, uh, a call that Hamas must be
Yeah.
eliminated. And it's not only about Hamas, it's all about the Palestinian people. So when Israel goes and destroy the Palestinians
It
and kill the
justifies it. It
civilians,
justifies it.
yes,
They want you to justify the killing of your own family.
exactly, exactly. So they want me to say that, oh, it happens. My family are killed. It's okay. It happens. I'm not allowed to criticize those who have murdered my family. That is the problem.
It's gangsterism. It's emotional blackmail. It's structural. It's institutional.
But that's why, look, when we say there is dehumanization of the Palestinian in the media, this is what we mean by
Yeah.
dehumanization. is that I am allowed to lose. It's that the Palestinians can lose their loved ones. They can struggle. It's okay. They're used to it. But if an Israeli person who lost 21 members of his family and he's invited to come to the UK, what kind of a treatment would he receive?
And frankly, such a person doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist.
But if it
you can't
does-
find one Israeli, but this is the asymmetrical nature of what we're talking about. You don't have one Israeli that has lost 20 members of their family. That type of violence has not been exacted.
But how many Palestinians lost more than 20? You can't count them. Thousands.
Yeah.
Thousands. But
In
that's
London
okay.
alone that I know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Tens of people in London who have lost many
Yeah.
family members. And then there are smear campaigns that are launched against you.
Yeah.
So they don't just leave you alone.
No.
They would smear you. They would intimidate you. They would fight you. They would want to silence you in any way possible.
Yeah.
And not only the media. Not only the media.
As in? Who else other than the media?
Well, one of the universities in London, I was invited to give a speech there, and then the student union at that university, they cancelled all of the event because I am speaking there. And what is the justification? Do you know what they said?
It would make Jewish students uncomfortable.
No, not even that. They said Ahmed refused to condemn Hamas in one of his interviews.
And you're talking about...
But you know what?
Yeah.
At that time, I was never asked to condemn Hamas.
Wow.
So it was a lie.
Wow.
I wasn't even asked to condemn Hamas at any of my interviews back then. So you see, so this is like, it feels like a universal war against the Palestinians.
It is.
Whoever they are, wherever they are. And by the way, I have always been critical of Hamas my entire life, but that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You'll have to go, and they want me to speak as an Israeli.
Yeah.
And I refuse to do that.
Yeah. Absolutely. You know, there's aspects of what has happened that are unprecedented in human history. There has never been a situation where people are as intimately aware of this level of violence. And there's also all of the developments and advancements that they've made are now being used to end life. Technology that could give life, technology and people with brains that could somehow use this know-how to help people are now aimed at killing some of the poorest people in the world. And to me, it doesn't seem a coincidence that the first people that stood with Gaza and have given the most to Gaza are some of the poorest people in the world in Yemen as well. And really, we've seen, as you alluded to earlier on, Gaza is the clarifier. Gaza is the clarifier. It has revealed who is on whose side in this entire war. And today we have a greater awareness of what exactly it is that we're facing as a regional project and what exactly their intentions are. On the other side, and of course this is a kind of side note really, because in counterbalance to the material reality, we can say that winning a war is about convincing as wide a number of people as possible of your point of view. Now, if that is the metric by which you work out who has won and who has lost the war, Gaza has won. Israel has less supporters than any other time historically. It has the idea of Zionism is being more widely lambasted than at any time previously.
But does that matter?
But
Really?
that's when you balance it up against the material reality and people actually.
But
being able
why
to live
why do the
as a matter.
Palestinians have to pay the price for that?
Absolutely, I agree.
It's a huge problem, and
Yeah,
I think this war, after this war ends, or if it ends, there are many questions that we have to ask ourselves.
Yeah.
Why is it that the Palestinians who have to suffer all of this?
Yeah.
I refuse to call ourselves heroes or victims. We are people who want to live a normal life, and we have paid a huge price for the liberation of the world. As I said, it's not a war between Gaza and Israel. I think it's a war between capitalism and the working people all around the world.
Right.
Do you know why? Because we have seen in the West and in the East and all around the world, the people stand with Palestine, but the governments don't, and the rich people don't. So it tells you that there is a war even in our communities here in the West. There is a war. Why are these people are not listened to? Why can't the government listen to the people who are protesting day and night in the UK and everywhere? So this is a question we need to understand, to ask ourselves, what is going on? How can we allow a genocide to continue for 10 months? A televised genocide. How are we allowing this to happen? How are we allowing ourselves to live in some countries that still support Israel with weapons? We're not even questioning them. Why do you still send weapons to Israel, knowing that these weapons are going to be used to kill the people in Gaza?
And also, what's interesting is that governments around the world, from here to Saudi, are basically showing that repression of this feeling is the model that they will use going forward. They can create whole industries around suppressing people like us. You know, Palestine Action has 16 members currently in jail in
And
England and in Scotland,
yeah.
imprisoned
And jail.
in jail.
Okay.
Now, this is a movement which, with its hands, is trying to stop the genocide. With its hands, has achieved victories which are unprecedented in the history of this country in terms of shutting down Israeli arms factories in this country. The response of the British state has been continually to escalate, to the point where we now see 16 in jail. It's likely that that number will increase. The sentences are getting larger. The courts are having pressure put on them. The CPS is having pressure put on it. There's been an active campaign to lobby key figures in the CPS. You've even seen Israel lobbyists in this country lobbying to remove Mark Rowley, the head of the Metropolitan Police, because he wasn't judged to be going hard enough on whether it's people with placards, but particularly it's, of course, Palestine Action. And the Jerusalem Post and Elbit Systems have been lobbying the British government to prescribe Palestine Action as a terrorist organization. So actually, we are saying that the furthest extent of what is happening is the repression will increase here rather than the and a lot of what you've been saying is symptomatic of that repression. It's part of that repression. This estranged way in which you're being dealt with, this inhuman way in which you're being dealt with, is part of that bigger picture to the playbook of using, do you condemn this or that political organization? And then that being used to strip you of your right to an opinion, of your right to grieve. And really, this is the picture today. Intensify and harden these particular forces within society, harden the authoritarian and suppressive forces within societies, and it's truly grotesque. It's unprecedented in its ugliness. Ahmed, it's been really enlightening to speak to you, and I thank you for your insights. And I promise you that even in our small capacity, we are with you in the face of all eventualities. We Gaza is the moral compass of the world today, and when we seek to tell generations that come about this period of time, Gaza must be a definitive part of this story. Gaza has proven to the world the truth of themselves. It has put the nuqat al-huruf, as they say, and we can only apologize and we can only beg for your forgiveness are our failures, are our limitations, and at the actions that we did not take. And Palestine Action as a movement will continue to push regardless of the consequences that the British state attempts to put on it. The entire world stands with Palestine and stands with Gaza and loves Palestine and loves Gaza. As you pointed out, it's a tiny, wafer thin, but powerful minority of these societies around the world that have this loyalty to genocide. If there was anything that you would like to add before we wrap up, any message that you'd like to give people, anywhere people can keep in touch with your work, any organizations you'd like them to support, maybe you could tell them about Palestine Deep Dive. Feel free.
Thank you very much, Kareem. I was asked the same question yesterday at one of the events, actually. If there is anything else I would like to say, and I would like to repeat my answer. I said, we have spoken a lot. We have said enough. We are tired. Wallahi, Kareem, we are tired. I have been speaking for the past 10 months, and before that, for the past 10 years, I have been speaking. Here in the UK, in every city I've been there, speaking to people, speaking to the media, speaking here and there. We're tired. We've had enough of talking and speaking. We, the Palestinians, have done our part to try to save the world from this savage movement that's called Zionism. We have done our part, and we have paid the price for it. We have paid the maximum price for it. We have paid the blood of our family, of our neighbors, of our people. And I don't know if Palestine will win or will lose. I don't know. Maybe it will. Maybe we will win. Maybe we will lose. I don't know. But I think we have done our part, and now it is up to the people especially in the UK, because the UK it's where all our problems started. It started with the Balfour Declaration, which gave out our lands to the Zionists. We have done our part. Now it is up to the people here and there and everywhere. Everyone who's watching us, everyone has an ethical responsibility to do something to
Absolutely.
stop this savagery, to stop this genocide. This is the first time that we see televised genocide live every day for 10 months. But you know what? It is also the first time that we are watching our government supporting Israel with the weapons that they need, and we can't say a word about it. We have done our part as Palestinians. Now it is time for people who are watching us to do their part. And I don't know what they can do. I genuinely don't know what people can do. But I know that everyone in their heart, they know what they can do. Everyone in their expertise, everyone in their own profession, everyone in their own field, I know they can do something for Palestine. The least of the things that people can do is to listen to the Palestinian voices, to hear our voices, to hear our stories, to read and share, and to tell each other about Palestine. There are so many people who are ignorant about Palestine here in the UK. So we need to educate them. We need to tell them the truth. We need to convey the message, the voice of the Palestinians to them. This is the least that people can do. But I don't want them to do the least. I want them to do whatever they
They
can
can.
in
Absolutely.
order to stop the genocide. I can't believe that we are in the 21st century and we're seeing our brothers and sisters being slaughtered live on TV every day, and we're just standing idle by, not doing
Absolutely.
anything. So it's a call for action.
Thank you very much, Ahmed. And as a final message, No one person can do everything, but everyone can do something. The Palestinian cause and the mass suffering and the industrial scale killing, it deserves study. It's time for us to study the enemy, to study their operations in this country particularly, and in your locality, wherever you are. Please inform yourselves and use that information to act now. Thank you for joining us, Ahmed.
Thank you very much for having me.